Hello again, Father Mark Borkowski, pastor of Our Lady of the Scapular Parish, and we are here in the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Just a recap from the last clip, if you didn't look at it, that this church was built started in 1915, finished in 1916, designed by Harry Rill, well-known architect in the city of Detroit. Their church is built in the Italian Renaissance style, which was the popular building style about that time in church history. I guess I didn't add in the last clip that when the church was built, the idea was it would be able to seat 900 people. I personally don't think 900 people would fit in here now, because 900 people in 1915 were smaller than 900 people in 2020, but you certainly could put a lot of people in this church. We are looking at the windows of the church, which were put in probably the beginning of the year of 1916 as the church was being finished. They were all created by the Munich Stained Glass Window Company of Chicago. They are probably the most valuable works of art in the parish, in the building here. They're designed in such a way that there is an image in the middle of the window, and then there is decorative glass around the window. As I said before, the reason for this is twofold. Number one, it's cheaper than having the picture fill the whole window. When we begin to discuss the details, it will become obvious why that would be extremely costly. And secondly, the panels allow more light to come into the church building. So if the whole window was filled with the picture, it would be much darker in the church. So we are in the south transept of the church. As I said last time, the church is built, if you were to look at it from the sky, looking down, you'd see that it's in the shape of a cross. So the long part of the cross is called the nave, and the arms of the cross are called the transept. So we are in the transept. This is the south transept of the church. And today we are looking at this image of Our Lady of Lourdes. So this window depicts an event that took place again in France. Last time we looked at Sacred Heart, that event took place in France in the 1600s. This event takes place in France in the 1800s, in 1858 to be exact. So the 14-year-old girl, Bernadette Subaru, is out gathering wood near a small rock cave. So she is from a poor family that lived near Lourdes, which is in South France near the Pyrenees Mountains. Her father is a miller in town. They are not well-to-do. So she's out gathering firewood, sticks and such to be used to keep the house warm and for her father's work. And as she's out and about, she describes a young woman appeared to her. So the young woman, as we can see here in the picture, is the Blessed Virgin Mary. Bernadette wasn't sure about that at the time. Interestingly enough, the young woman spoke to Bernadette, and Bernadette did not speak straightforward French, but she spoke a dialect of French. And this woman spoke to her in the dialect that Bernadette used. Bernadette was struck by the fact that this woman, or this young lady, was extremely polite to her. So in Bernadette's life, she was considered to be slow, and she was frequently treated without respect by friends, family members, just people in general, because she was thought to be pretty much a nobody. And so she was so struck by the fact that this woman was so terribly polite to her, speaking to her in her own dialect. Now the woman appeared to Bernadette at this spot 18 times. And finally, at one of these times, Bernadette had the nerve to ask her, "Who are you?" Because she really wasn't sure who this woman is. The response that the woman gave to her is, "I am the Immaculate Conception." Now, Bernadette had no idea what that term meant. And as a matter of fact, very few people at the time had heard of such a concept as the Immaculate Conception. However, in Rome in 1854, Pope Pius IX had just declared the dogma of the Immaculate Conception, but of course in those days it took time for these things to get disseminated, so people in a small mountain town in France would not know anything about Immaculate Conception. Of course, the dogma of the Immaculate Conception is that dogma that says that the Blessed Virgin Mary was conceived in her mother's womb without original sin. It's a dogma of the Church. It's one of those things that you have to believe if you want to be called a Catholic. Dogmas in modern times are not proclaimed very often, and actually, since this dogma of the Immaculate Conception was proclaimed, no other dogmas have been proclaimed in the Church until 1950, when Pope Pius XII proclaimed the dogma of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So that dogma says that the Blessed Virgin Mary, when her life on earth was finished, was taken body and soul to heaven. Both these dogmas, the Immaculate Conception and the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary, were ideas or beliefs that the Church had had for many, many, many years. It just got to the point where these two popes decided to make it clear without a doubt that this is a dogma of the Church that you must believe. But coming back to our story, how surprised Bernadette would have been when later, as she grew up, she heard of this dogma of the Immaculate Conception. Now in this picture you will see the water flowing there. In one of the apparitions, the Blessed Virgin Mary asked Bernadette to dig for a stream, for a spring. And she did dig, and eventually the water began to flow. Thousands and thousands of gallons now flow from that spring dug by Bernadette, and they're considered to be healing waters. So that is definitely depicted here in this image that we have of the apparition of Our Lady to Bernadette at Lourdes. Later on, Bernadette grew up and she became a nun. She entered the Sisters of Charity at Nevers and spent her whole life there. Her life was short. She died of tuberculosis when she was 35 years old. Later on, she was canonized a saint in 1933. Lourdes has become one of the premier spots of Marian devotion in Italy. Once again, it's interesting that both of these two main windows in our church depict the faith life of France. Here in our Polish church, the French are very much present, and as we find out, all ethnic groups seem to be present here amongst us. It's a Polish parish for sure, and the inscription there at the bottom of the window reminds us, because it tells us that this window was offered by Jacob, Rosalia, and Veronica Mihala. Once again, just to point out some of the artistic details, because these windows are so delightful and valuable because of the great detail that the artist at the Munich Stained Glass Window Company took in creating them. So you have that frame around the image, which is definitely Italian Renaissance style. There in the image you might notice, if you look very carefully, so perhaps you can't see from this, but the next time you're in the church, come close and look. On the feet of the Blessed Virgin Mary there, on each foot is a golden rose. Bernadette remarked that this was something that she noticed when she saw the lady there. Bernadette herself is dressed in her peasant garb. She has an apron on. She is offering the Blessed Virgin her rosary. She prayed many rosaries, and the Virgin recommended the praying of the rosary. Also, you will see there the wild roses that are growing around the stones of the cave or the grotto. Those roses would not have been there when Bernadette saw Our Lady, but if you travel to Lourdes, it's interesting that those wild roses do grow all around the grotto. So once again, we have a beautiful depiction of one of the primary foundations of our faith, that God chose Mary to be his mother, and the Blessed Virgin Mary is all about helping us to become holy. She helped Bernadette. Bernadette said, when she was asked about her interaction with the Blessed Virgin Mary, she said, "I am the Blessed Virgin Mary's brood. She has just used me to sweep the floor, to clean the church, to clean the world, and now I've gone to the corner to end my days in the convent." And Bernadette did end her days shortly in the convent at Nevers. Interestingly enough, if you travel there, Bernadette's body is on display. For some reason, her body after death did not begin to corrupt. And so if you ever travel to France, you may go there and see the body of Bernadette, age 35, Sister of Charity, lying in the convent there. And so this is our second window, and we will meet again and look at some more.